Saturday is behind this team. Let's focus on Sunday against the Bears. A lot to discuss on a Tuesday edition of Locked On Lions.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everybody? Matt Dery with you. It's a Tuesday edition of Locked On Lions on the Locked On Podcast Network. 2 games to go as we enter Week 17. It's a Tuesday, December 27th, and a Wednesday, December 28th. Thanks for listening, making us your first listen each and every day here on Locked On Lions, where you can find us on Twitter at Dery Speaks, D-E-R-Y Speaks, at Locked On Lions on Twitter, the Matt Dery Facebook fan page. Thank you for the comments, as always, those of you that catch the show on Facebook, and also our YouTube channel, Locked On Lions YouTube channel. We are over 3,000 subscribers now, slowly building that up. Thanks to all of you for listening and watching and participating in the comments. We appreciate that. Coming up on the show today, I think the Lions need to get a player back that is very, very important for them for this stretch run over these last 2 weeks. And it was evident this past Sunday, or I should say Saturday, that the Lions really missed this individual. We'll talk about that player and the depth at his position coming up on the show today. Also, NFL.com power rankings are back out. Remember last week we told you the Lions made it into the top 7. They were ranked 7th by Dan Hanzus of NFL.com. They dropped this week. We'll tell you what number they're at. And also, effort and everything aside for what took place this past Saturday, an observation that I'm making after watching a couple of teams play on national TV the other night, both on Christmas Day and last night for the Monday night game, makes me feel good and optimistic about the direction of this Lions team. All of that coming up today on this Tuesday edition of the podcast. Lauren Cox, the host of Locked On Bears, will join me on Thursday for the Locked On crossover. Detroit and Chicago coming up Sunday at Ford Field, the home finale for the Lions before heading to Lambeau Field for Week 18. Everything's in front of Detroit. Lions at 7-8. Commanders at 7-1. Giants, a couple of games ahead of the Lions with 8 wins. Seattle sitting at 7-8. Green Bay at 7-8. Lions win out. They got as good a chance as anybody to sneak into that last wild card spot. And yes, yesterday's show, I was a bit harsh on the team. I hated the effort on Saturday. Dan Campbell has talked about it ad nauseum, whether it was this morning on the Ticket Morning Show or at his press conference Monday. The effort wasn't there. They weren't prepared. As I told you yesterday, many players complaining about the field conditions down in Charlotte, the hard turf, everything. Now we got to move away from that. The Lions are playing a team on Sunday at Ford Field that is absolutely abysmal. All right, the Bears suck. They're 3-12 and they've lost 8 straight. They're not trying to win. They're not. Justin Fields does his cute little runs and he's explosive and dynamic, but that's it. You stop Fields, you stop their running game, the Lions should be in good shape and back to 500 this weekend. All right, where I kind of wanted to start today was a very important player that this team missed on Saturday, and that was DeSean Elliott, the strong safety. He was picked up, of course, from Baltimore in the offseason by Brad Holmes and signed a 1-year deal. And the Lions have had a lot of movement at safety. Tracy Walker getting hurt, Kirby Joseph having to kind of slide in, did a nice job. And if you recall, 2 weeks ago when the Lions knocked off the Jets, DeSean Elliott got hurt in that game with injured his shoulder, sprained his shoulder, and C.J. Moore came into that game and did a pretty good job. Graded high by Pro Football Focus that week. And this week, leading up to the last game against the Panthers, Dan Campbell and the defensive staff all kind of said, hey, we need to take a look at Ifeatu Melifonwu, who they drafted 2 years ago, and see if he can get it done. And he's ready, and he's been healthy. He hasn't been healthy, but now he's healthy. They wanted to give him an opportunity. And as we told you yesterday when we went through the PFF grades, Ife Melifonwu played over 60 snaps at strong safety, and C.J. Moore played 2. Now, it makes no sense because C.J. Moore played really well against the Jets, and Melifonwu has shown basically nothing in his 2 years with the Lions since being drafted out of Syracuse. He's not been good, and he hasn't been healthy. And it was very weird that last week, Dan Campbell made it a point when someone asked, hey, what are you looking for in your replacement for DeSean Elliott? And he said, we're looking for football players. We're looking for toughness. We're looking for reliability and dependability. And Ife Melifonwu hasn't played. And he's all the things that are not what Dan Campbell was looking for, yet he played in almost all the snaps. CJ Moore is more of a special teams player, but CJ Moore is a veteran player. And we could sit here and go Moore or Melifonwu till we're blue in the face. But the bottom line is the Lions need DeSean Elliott back in the lineup. Of the regular defensive players that have taken snaps for the Lions this season, all right, and have played, in 15 or double-digit games, let's say that, Aiden Hutchinson is the Lions' highest graded defensive player. He's played in 15 games with a 77.0 grade from Pro Football Focus, just if you're going to go by PFF. Next up is Aleem McNeil, who's played in 15 games and has a grade of 68.2. Who's the third highest regular on the Lions defense? DeSean Elliott, 13 games and a grade of 67.0 and a tackling grade of 82.9. Now, small sample size, but Ife Melifonwu in 3 games with the Lions, 3, has a 38.9 grade. We're talking about nearly double with DeSean Elliott at 67.0. So while we talk and discuss, getting players back, Romeo Okwara coming back, and James Houston finally playing, and Tracy Walker's been out. No, the guy they need is DeSean Elliott. He is vital to this defense and vital down the stretch these last 2 games, whether it's against Hall of Fields, Justin Fields in that running game. We saw what Fields did to the Lions the first time these two teams met. He scorched them on the ground. But when the Lions needed to get 2 stops at the end of that game, they got him against Justin Fields, who was forced to throw, trailing late in that game when the Lions had the great comeback at Soldier Field. So God bless Melifonwu. Maybe he'll get better, but right now, what is really needed for this defense is a healthy DeSean Elliott Sunday against the Bears and next weekend against the Packers. Proof is in the pudding. All right? Yeah, Kirby Joseph has to play better. Yes, Jeff Okudah has been Jeff Toast Kuda the last couple of weeks. All right, all those guys need to get better, but DeSean Elliott is a veteran who knows how to play, and they need him on that back end because Melifonwu was late, blown assignments. Dan Campbell said something on Monday about young players and some assignments. We have young new players out there. Well, what new players are young that are finally getting to play? Melifonwu. And he was talking about mistakes that were made. He made too many mistakes this weekend. All right, power rankings. When we come back right here on Locked On Lions, we got to tell you about this really cool game that we've been playing on the network the last couple of weeks. We got to get you involved. It's our new partner and sponsor for today's episode, and that is the mobile game Ultimate Football GM. Ever dreamed of becoming an NFL GM and managing your football franchise? Well, your dream can come true, and this game is definitely for you. Manage every strategic aspect of your team. Play through the season. Lead your team to glory. You're responsible for hiring the right coaches and coordinators, making trades, draft picks, navigating your franchise through free agency and the draft and all the ups and downs of a season. It's awesome. All this in a challenging and realistic game world. Ultimate Football GM is completely free, and you can playable offline. Play on the go as you want and when you want to. It's fun. Get your friends involved. It's cool. Locked On Lions listeners, you're going to get a 100% free boost to your franchise when you use the promo Locked On, all caps, in the game store. That's Locked On in all caps. So make sure you check it out today. To download the game, just visit ultimate-gm.com. ultimate-gm.com, or look it up on the App Store. That's ultimate-gm.com. Ultimate Football GM. Start your dynasty today. Locked On Lions for a Tuesday edition. Matt Dery with you. Lions and Bears coming up Sunday at Ford Field should be a raucous environment. New Year's Day. So weird that the NFL had games on Christmas Day and on New Year's Day, but here we are, and it's still exciting. The fact that this team at 7-8 is in this thing, in the mix. Heck, they'd be leading the NFC South if they were in that division, is a cool thing, and it means that there's been progress made with this organization. Yes, I was very harsh on the team yesterday, but it was a clunker Saturday. Now you move on. NFL.com power rankings. I like these because I think Dan Hansis, the author, goes kind of off the beaten path sometimes and looks at things a little bit differently. But last week, NFL.com power rankings had the Lions ranked 7th, and I was floored. I said, is this a top 10 team in the NFL? Well, they had won 6 of 7. They were playing well, and everybody was ticketing them for the playoffs last week. Then the bleep show down in Charlotte this past weekend. So the Lions this week drop 4 spots from number 7 to number 11. And I completely agree with it. San Francisco, Philly, Buffalo, Cincinnati, and Kansas City are your top 5 teams. Niners at number 1 is an interesting choice, especially with the Brock Purdy at quarterback. But Niners defense is unbelievable. They're so well coached, and they just continue to blast teams like they did the Commanders this past weekend. Philly at 2, not a real argument there. Buffalo, Cincinnati's red hot, and Kansas City your top 5. I think the AFC Championship game is going to be unbelievable this year. If it's Buffalo, Cincy, Buffalo, KC, Cincy, it's going to be amazing. I think one of those teams is going to be in there. I know people are high on the Chargers. I watched the Chargers last night. They don't do that much for me. Good team, but Buffalo, Cincy, Kansas City, those are really good football teams. Dallas comes in at number 6. Minnesota at 7. Vikings with a big, at the buzzer win again this weekend. Chargers at 8. Jacksonville at 9. How about the Jaguars now in first place in the AFC South? We saw them a few weeks ago down at Brush and Adams, and the Lions throttled them. Baltimore at 10. Ravens lead the AFC North right now. And then the Lions come in at number 11, dropping 4 spots from 7 to 11. And I agree with that. Green Bay is right after Detroit at 12. And then teams like the Jets, the Giants are all in the mix after Detroit, Washington. Lions beat all those teams. Lions beat the Commanders. Lions beat the Giants. Lions knocked off the Jets. Lions knocked off the Packers. So number 11 is, I think, very accurate. And I still think this team, and look, Tampa Bay's way back. They're a division leader. Tennessee is right there. They're behind the Lions. The Lions have made good progress this year. All right. They got a ways to go still. There's still a lot of questions. We talked yesterday about Jamison Williams and can they get him involved? There's still holes on the defense. The linebackers were abominable this past Saturday. They sucked. But sitting at number 11, I'm with it. I think that is an accurate assessment of where the Lions are right now. Dan Hansis writes for NFL.com, quote, "The Lions came down to earth in grim fashion on Saturday, run over by a relentless Panthers attack in a 37-23 loss in Charlotte. The tone was set in the first drive as Hubbard and Foreman ran through truck-sized holes in Detroit's front 7. When it was over, the Lions had surrendered 320 ground yards, a Panthers record, and 570 yards overall. It was a terrible look for Aaron Glenn's defense, which needs to flush this effort and get ready for Justin Fields and the Bears on Sunday. That was a hungry team that we played," Dan Campbell said of the Panthers, "and we didn't look as hungry. That's the bottom line." End quote. Yep, that's exactly the right way to phrase and frame this. Every team is going to have lousy performances. All right. I hated the way the Lions played. I hated the way they whined about the field. All of that on Saturday. But you know what? Nobody had the Lions with these last 2 games thinking if they win out and go and get to 9-8 that they would have a chance at the playoffs. I don't think anybody thought that at the start of the year. So the trajectory is up. Now, they could completely wet their pants on Sunday and lose, and then I'll be the first to get on this show and destroy them. But I don't think they will. I think they're going to win Sunday. I really do. The Bears aren't trying. They get so many guys on IR. Are they really going to snap an 8-game losing streak? Aren't they trying to tank and get Will Anderson or Jalen Carter? I don't see it. And then, of course, it's going to probably come down to Week 18 at Lambeau, and we know the numbers and what Aaron Rodgers does in December. Is it really going to come down to Lambeau? Is it really going to come down to Lions and Packers? You don't think the referees and the league's going to have a hand in that game? Oh, my God. Don't get me started. All right. I have an observation about some other teams. I was kind of touching on it, but I want to get to that coming up next. But first, I want to tell you about our friends at, wrong one. There we go. What about PrizePicks, folks? Oh, yes. PrizePicks is daily fantasy. It's so much fun. It's you against the projections, and it's cool. You pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score or more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you can win it up to 10 times your money on any entry. And the great thing about PrizePicks is it's you against the projections. You make the picks, and then that's it. You're not going up against other people or changing things. No. If PrizePicks projects this Sunday that Justin Fields is going to run for, let's say, 98 yards, you can bet over, under, higher, lower, whatever it is. And you can do this all week, even when the NFL games aren't going on. Want to throw some money down on some projections with the NBA, NHL, golf, college hoops, the bowl season, college football? You can do that at prizepicks.com. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It really is that easy. Download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. You put in 50, they'll give you 50. Don't forget to enter promo code LOCKEDON at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. All right, so we all despise what happened this weekend. I don't want to repeat it again. But now the Lions have a chance. They have a chance to finish with a winning record, do something that no professional team in this town has done in a long time, and that's finish with a winning record, and take some serious momentum into next season or even into January 14th, 15th, or 16th and play a playoff game, which would be incredible, right? So we like the direction they're going. And I felt better about the Lions last night watching the Colts. And I felt better about the Lions Christmas Day, Sunday, watching the Broncos. And I feel better about the Lions when I watch the Bears. All right, these are franchises in such disarray that are so bad and so dysfunctional. I mean, you have the Colts, and I like Jeff Saturday. Don't get me wrong. You have the Colts being coached by somebody that's never coached before and has no idea what he's doing. All right, he's starting Nick Foles at quarterback and did so last night against the Chargers. And the guy can't throw the ball 10 yards, 15 yards. He's terrible. The Denver Broncos just fired their first-year head coach, Nathaniel Hackett, and the general manager that hired him will not hire the next coach. The new owner is going to. So the GM basically has no say in anything. They're dysfunctional. They've got Russell Wilson on the hook for like $50 million, $60 million plus the next few years. Lions are not in that position. The Lions are in a much better spot than a Denver, than an Indianapolis, who knows who their coach is going to be, who knows who their quarterback's going to be. All right, the Bears. Yes, everybody in Chicago and in the 3-1-2 is gaga over Justin Fields. What else do they really have? What else are you excited about? They lose every week. They're 3-12 in this league. Maybe they're tanking. Maybe they want to lose. I don't know. But would you rather be in the Lions position right now or the Bears? Does anybody watch Tampa Bay play and see the amount of talent that the Buccaneers have compared to the Lions? Players like Levante David and Mike Evans and the GOAT Tom Brady and Fournette. There's guys the Lions would take on their team in a second that are on the Bucs. They squeak by when they win. They're in a terrible division, and they have to make sure they beat the Panthers at home this Sunday just to win the division. I could keep going. All right, there are plenty of dysfunctional, bad teams. The Cleveland Browns, come on. They gave $300 million of guaranteed money to Deshaun Watson. He's been terrible since he's come back. Oh, but he's rusty. Oh, okay. They benched Myles Garrett for the start of their game with the Saints this past weekend for disciplinary reasons. Lions aren't doing that. Yes, the Lions had a stink bomb this week, but for the most part, they're on track. There are some bad teams. Look at Tennessee and how they're just going into the abyss right now without Ryan Tannehill. Now, again, Jared Goff, knock on wood, could get hurt this week, and we could see Nate Sudfeld, and it could be lights out. But I'm telling you, the Lions are in a good position. They're in good shape compared to some of these other jabroni operations that I'm watching. That'll do it for Locked On Lions for a Tuesday edition on the Locked On Podcast Network. And thanks for watching. Hope everybody's having a good holiday. And if you're on vacation this week, enjoying it, check us out on YouTube. Tell your friends about us. Stick with us all week as we get you ready for the Bears game. We'll get more into it tomorrow right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. See you.